Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to Starbucks with Jim and DiNardo. I'm your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, we got Jim Rosati. Good morning. Happy Monday.
Good morning. I've got my coffee. I woke up on time today. Yeah, it's a good morning. We're going to make this a good start to the week.
I just realized I spelled G1Bay's name wrong. I made it a K and not a J.
You also didn't send out a tweet.
Oh. I did now. We're getting better at this. Hey, it's 7:07. So first off, I was awake. That was a thing. And now the tweet's out. So we're good.
All right.
But anyways, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It was a nice, relaxing weekend. Louisville won by 38. And I just didn't do anything really all weekend long. It was great.
I feel that. Those are really nice weekends these days. I could probably say the same. I didn't do really much at all this weekend. Wife worked. I didn't. Pirates played baseball. Whatever. Jim up at 7, impressive. I agree. More impressive than I'm up than Jim up, but it's impressive that Jim's doing something.
Right.
So I'll say that.
No,
but,
I'm good, ready to go.
So the Pirates, are they good and ready to go? There's 9 more games left?
9 more games left. Tyler and I talked about it yesterday. We weren't even sure if we were going to do a post-game show. And Tyler was like, "Where are you at, Jim?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll hop on." But it's just every single loss is just the exact same story. Like we're getting good starting pitching, and then you go to the bullpen and they are just terrible.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing over and over and over again.
Well, we're being saved, Jim. We're being saved by Miguel Andujar. Because the Pirates finally landed him. They didn't have to trade Garrett Cole. They didn't have to trade Brian Reynolds. Nothing. Now, there's no Clint Frazier. So we're half saved. But the Pirates do get Miguel Andujar. And it's been, 5 years in the making for this to happen. And it finally does. Let's talk Miguel Andujar. Because I feel like this fan base is quite split on Miguel Andujar and what he is, what he presents, what he could be. Now, there's only 9 games this year. So it's not as if he's going to come in and save anything for the season. But let's talk maybe what he could do for this season, what we want to see out of him for the rest of his 9 games, but also what he presents for this offseason and heading into next year. How's that sound?
Sure.
Okay.
It's a transaction that we'll get into it, but it's like a lot of people have been saying Miguel Andujar needs to go to the Pirates for a long time. Really on both sides, right? Both the Yankees and the Pirates have both been saying this. And he's now finally here, a lot later than, all of the mock trade proposals and all that. He's now 27 years old. He has almost 4 years of service time. But he's here.
All right. So it happens. And again, I'm not shocked that Ben Cherington put a waiver claim on him. There are other guys that I expected a waiver claim to happen and it didn't. Miguel Andujar just seemed like that's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And honestly, I wasn't looking forward to it, if that makes sense. I was deep down, I was like, just don't do it. Don't be tempted by it. And he did it. The Nationals passed, Pirates picked up. Again, it's 9 games left. What do you think what do you want to see out of Andujar and his usage for the rest of this year?
I guess that's what I'm curious about is I'm not really quite sure where he fits in. Like if when he was first acquired, I was like, well, maybe he could be slotted in a corner outfield spot because right now, especially against lefties, corner outfield against lefties, right now the Pirates are playing Diego Castillo in the outfield, right? And at least Andujar has more outfield experience than that. Mm-hmm. Then I thought maybe, he doesn't have a whole lot of playing time at first base in the majors or the minors. Maybe you play him at first base over Chavis and whoever. Yeah, I mean, that's basically it at this point. I guess Collins has played a little bit of first base, right? So maybe you're playing him at first base. He has like 30 total innings at first base in his entire career. Like if you count minors and majors, so it's not a whole lot. So I guess that's really the only thing I'm curious about is how exactly they're going to use him. Because like he's not playing third base. He's basically left field. Yeah, I mean it's going to be left field. Maybe we see what he is at first base. I don't know. Yeah, I get the pickup in a sense that here's a guy who has shown at some point that he can produce. It was a while ago. It was 2018. Like this isn't anything current. But you've got a guy who has shown he can produce at the major league level. He hasn't done so in a long time. He hasn't received a lot of playing time lately. So maybe give him some playing time and see what happens. I'm guessing that's the Pirates' strategy here. That was their strategy with a lot of these old, washed up top prospects, right? I feel like, I sent it out last night. Neil Huntington did this all the time. Like in his early years, like it's like he had a 5-year-old Baseball America handbook. And he's like, oh, I gotta acquire all these guys. And he went out, he got Lastings Millage, and he got Andy LaRoche, and he got Brandon Moss, right? So he got all these guys who were like former top prospects who just fizzled out. Now, now you've got Michael Chavis, you've got Zach Collins, you have if you want to go even farther back, Ben Wellos and a bunch of these bullpens, like everybody's picking off the scrap heap as like an old top prospect from 2017 and 2018. So that's what we're seeing now with this pickup. It kind of goes into that. Not too many of those pickups turned out well for Neil Huntington back in the day. None of them have really turned out well for Ben Cherington so far. Anthony Alford, another guy you can kind of throw in there. So I'm not expecting this to go well, but like at this point, why not try? I guess that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's I guess I'm okay with that too. The biggest thing to me about picking up right now is I'm just quite indifferent. Like I really don't care. I'm not mad that the Pirates picked them up, but I'm also not excited that the Pirates picked him up either. To me, once again, like this really just screams everything you talked about. It's truthfully, it's picking up some more hodgepodge. Now, it's not really nothingness because he has the name, right? Like you said, there's like a brand name to him. It just really stinks since he's been living off that name and that hype for quite some time. He was a prospect, right? I mean, again, like him and Clint Frazier coming up as the prospects for the Yankee system. You see where Clint Frazier's gone, basically nowhere in his career. Andujar's kind of gone that path. Like I look at this one thing, Well, I'm not shocked that the Yankees have been trying to trade them to forever because they're both pretty bad. They just didn't capitalize on doing so and let them both rot away in their organization. But like Andujar was the top prospect. He had a really, really good rookie season, right? So in 2018, he had almost a 4-WAR season. He batted 297, on base 328, slugged 527, 129 rate runs created plus, 27 home runs. Granted, Yankee Stadium, but regardless, had a really, really good year.
Second in Rookie of the Year voting to Ohtani.
There you go. And then what happened? That's the problem for me. Like, and then what happened? I understand injuries, are there, but his years 24 through 27 just completely wasted. I mean, and I don't say wasted as if like he was good and just rotted away. He was just bad. And I understand he didn't get a ton of plate appearances, but he's awful. Awful. And like, there's a reason why the Yankees haven't fallen in love with him either and like trying to give him like a roster spot because he is awful. So it's like when the Yankees, a good organization, and everyone wants to tout like, oh, you're going to real organizations, they're going to fix you, right? I mean, think about all the Pirates that leave to go to the Yankees. Oh, well, that was going to be good. Well, the Yankees couldn't do it. So why do you think the Pirates are going to do it?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point here. Like Miguel Andujar, let's go back to the Yankees, right? The Yankees are in the middle of a postseason run. Like they are going to make the postseason. I think they've already clinched. I'm sure they have. And they want to win a World Series this year. Miguel Andujar, they decided, was not even worth a 40-man roster spot.
Right.
I'm not talking about just an active. I'm not talking about an active roster spot. He wasn't worth a 40-man roster spot. So, and like you mentioned, the Yankees are a well-run organization. Miguel Andujar has been in the Yankees organization, and I think it was Gary Morgan who brought this up yesterday on Twitter on just like how he's not really that excited about the trade, and I completely understand it. Like Miguel Andujar has been with the Yankees since 2012. Like this is his 11th season in the New York Yankees organization. Nobody knows Miguel Andujar better than Cashman and the Yankees.
Correct.
And they have come to the conclusion he is not good enough to help them right now.
And again, it's not good enough to help him now or next year because he could simply just been optioned and be a Yankee next year. Maybe he'll get healthy and be an option for something for this upcoming year. And they said no, we don't want any part of him. We're just simply going to DFA him.
Yeah. So I think that's got to tell you something there. Now there are guys who maybe get DFA'd from really good organizations, and it's just a matter of that they just never got a chance, and then they go to a new place and they perform, right? Like that happens, right? But like I feel like with Andujar in particular, it's not like he hasn't gotten playing time these last 4 seasons. He's like the Yankees have tried to play him. He just hasn't performed at all. In any of like he has not replicated that success of his rookie season in any way, shape, or form whatsoever, and that has caused New York to move on from him. Right. I mean, the Yankees were scrambling for players last year. They were scrambling for players this year, and because of all of the injuries that they did have, and they decided that Andujar's not the guy for him. So I think like you got to kind of look at it in that way. The Yankees didn't want him anymore. Now, the Yankees are a much better baseball team than the Pirates in their current state, right?
Mm-hmm.
But does that mean that he's just done? Maybe, right? And I guess that's what we're going to find out here. like we only have 9 games to figure it out. Probably not even 9, probably 8, because he's probably not going to report to the team today. Probably report to the team Tuesday. And you've got now 8 games to decide if this is a guy you want to roster, over the offseason. Plus, he's arbitration eligible. So is he a guy you want to roster? Is he a guy you want to pay commit $1.5 million to next year in arbitration? And I don't know if they're going to be able to really come up with an answer in 8 days. So I'm just curious to see how this goes.
That sums it up basically. And I feel like if this was after the trade deadline, like, the Yankees made a trade, they said, he's not worth the 40 man. Let me go ahead and get rid of him. Then you have like this 2-month tryout, more or less. Yeah. And I mean, I'm with you too. Like some people just need to change the scenery, that's a thing. Just the organization, whatever it may be. I mean, it's worked out with the Pirates before in some things, right? I mean, like hell, you can look at the Yankees organization, look at like AJ Burnett. Hey, AJ Burnett left there and he flourished in Pittsburgh or whatever, right? I don't think anyone expected that. I'm not saying this is like there's extremes either. I mean, AJ Burnett isn't what Andujar is today when he was with the Yankees.
Burnett was a major league pitcher when he was still a Yankee.
I get that, and that's why that's not a good comparison in that sense. But I mean, he left there and just flourished, right? The Yankees were willing to just give him up for like nothing, basically. So like with Andujar, he has just been so bad, right? This year, only 100. Like these are minimal in like the grand scheme of things, but 100 plate appearances this year, a 49 away runs created plus. We were talking about like Sawinski's splits and how like his aways are worse than like Josh Van Meter's and such. I mean, Andujar's been worse than Josh Van Meter. Like let's call that out. This guy is worse than Josh Van Meter, and also same age. It's not as if like you're getting like this younger guy. He's the same age. He's Josh Van Meter that you're getting. Kind of make that clear, right? Performance wise, the year before an 82 way run created plus in 162 plate appearances. Before that, 71, and then negative 36, all coming after his rookie season. It's been bad. It's been awful. So yeah, there's the pedigree, right? There's the hype of 5 years ago he was rookie of the year candidate and had almost a 4-WAR season, but that's been a long time. And again, the Yankees have said we're not even willing to entertain this anymore. Bye. So the Pirates are a bad organization. They're not in a playoff run. So like they can't afford to take these guys to find out if they're going to hit or whatnot, because that's what they've been doing for 3 years, basically, under Ben Cherington, right? But like I guess where I'm at too is the biggest thing to me is, like you said, where is his fit? So I think, and of course I'm probably wrong, but I feel like no, he hasn't played first base a lot, but maybe here's excuse me. But maybe here's like an 8-game tryout. Like what can you do at first base? Because that's a real need. Now, surprisingly enough, it shows he's kind of put up some good numbers in the outfield this year. Not the Pirates can't afford any outfielders also, but like I just kind of feel like the pecking order, like, are you really going to take away at bats? Again, it's only 8 games left though, but like Jack Sawinski, Cal Mitchell, Bay, Reynolds, like the guys that you already have. I mean, maybe Cal Mitchell, I guess. So like there's part of that, like where's he fit right now? But like my thing too is like heading into this offseason of next year. The middle infield is crowded. There's a lot of guys already on the team in the system right now, right? With Cruz, Castros, Bay, Newman, right? So the middle infield's crowded. Hayes is a lock at third. And like, I feel like we both feel this team needs to go out there and get some free agents. Yeah. And where are those free agents going to come from? Well, they're going to come from the positions that Andujar plays. It's hopefully going to be a first base / DH, a corner outfielder, right? So it's like, to me, it's like if you're hanging on to Andujar, that means you've probably failed at acquiring free agent veterans. And to me, that's why this is, again, not bad, but like I keep saying, if he's on the team next year, probably means you failed this offseason.
No, that's a good point. And like your biggest fear with all of this is that they don't go and acquire that corner outfielder, or they don't go and acquire that first baseman, and they go, oh well, we got Andujar.
Right.
That's their fix, right? And if that's the play here, then this is awful. Like if they're going with Andujar over, say, and I just threw out the name yesterday. Like, let's say if they go with Andujar over Adam Duvall, or if they go with Andujar over Josh Bell, right? Like over like an actual, first baseman or corner outfielder who has shown that they can produce, is a productive player, and can help the team next year, right? And if they don't go after that guy and instead they settle with Andujar, yeah, then we've got a problem here. It's not good, because at the end of the day, even if he gets an 8-game tryout here, how do you even really trust those? I mean, it's 8 games.
Right.
Anybody can play poorly in 8 games. Anybody can play great in 8 games. It's baseball. It just happens. So, Andujar comes in and he produces for 8 games. That doesn't erase his previous 500 major league plate appearances that he has been a -2 WAR player over, over the last 4 years. So like, what are you doing? Are you saying, well, you know what, he's been awful for the last 4 seasons? Or do you say, oh, he was pretty good for a week in September and October in 2022, so let's hand him a roster spot? That I think is where things get a little muddy here, because going into next year, Miguel Andujar shouldn't be on this Pirates roster. They need better.
It's that simple.
Yeah, they need better players than Miguel Andujar. Plain and simple. Like this isn't a guy that you bring to your team to make you better.
And that's literally what it is. Like, it's just the way this roster is now being constructed and forming, right? Where they're at in the rebuild. You just can't afford to give away roster spots any longer to these type of players. There's just not enough room. And again, like I keep talking about this, and like you keep seeing it this year. Like this team is craving some actual true like leadership, like some real vets in that clubhouse, instead of a bunch of kids running around having no idea what the hell to do. So again, like if you have limited roster spots because all these players that you've acquired are now here and coming up, because also like the thing you got to think about is Endy should be up at some point next year. Henry should be up at some point next year. I mean, there's still Swaggerty out there. There's Frazier to be Rule 5 eligible. There's our boy Gorski also that's out there. Like I'm not saying, and that's why like people can't even feel like I'm not saying they're good and like you should not acquire people because of those players, but there's going to be some more of this. Well, we got to get some guys, some at bats, see some things. I mean, they're not ready to win next year. You have to straddle we got to get better, we got to get vets, but we also got to get some of these guys some plate appearances, some major league at bats, right? So you're playing both sides of the fence. And again, with that, you can't afford to give at bats to guys that aren't part of your future at all, which is Andujar. Again, like that's just where I'm at. You're gonna have more guys. Like it's gonna get even more crowded as the season progresses. So why are you wasting? And I'm sorry, but yes, wasting a roster spot on Miguel Andujar. He's just simply not good. You have enough of those people. You have enough of those. You're probably more worried about trying to figure out if the guys that you have are good rather than taking other people's scraps that wanted no part of them either. Like, let's get past that. You had faith in these guys. You've acquired them. You're probably more willing to want to see if they're going to work rather than the team that said, we don't want any part of you for next year already. We're simply just done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sounds like we're on the same page here. I get the acquisition just to like finish out the year, but I don't see where he fits in. I don't see how you can give up a roster spot to him. I mean, there's going to be plenty of roster spots available. I have a feeling, the majority of this bullpen is not going to be on the 40-man roster going into next year.
No.
You're going to have 40-man roster spaces that you can provide, but then if you're not, you got to bring in some people too. So, you're going to need the roster spots. And my biggest fear here is that they just kind of treat this as one of their acquisitions, and that Andujar is here to fill in a hole needed to play corner, outfield, first base, whatever it may be. Right. And if that happens, then that's a bad roster move. Like, that's not what this team should be doing, because I could be completely wrong, and a change of scenery could help him, but I just don't see it at this point.
Right. I'm with you. I don't see it. Now, again, he's being added and whatever. And again, like, at least like now he's in your organization. You do get to see him firsthand. I don't know what they do in the off seasons. I mean, they didn't even give O'Neal Cruz a glove. So I don't know like what they're going to do with Andujar this offseason to like see him and whatnot. But yeah, sure, he heads in the spring. Like, he's still part of the organization. I mean, maybe he can sneak through and be in AAA, and like he's there and you can work on some things. I don't know. I'm not expecting much, right? But like, to me, again, like my biggest thing is him being a Pirate isn't like the worst thing in the world. I really don't care. Again, I'm very indifferent. My biggest thing too is just it's not going to be well if he's on the opening day roster next year. If he somehow slides through and he's like in Indianapolis, right, because no one else claims him because he's out of options, whatever, next year, then like so be it. Like, whatever. Again, my biggest takeaway, and I think like you're saying too, is like this cannot be the fix. This can't be the let's get him in because he had this talent, like he has this pedigree. We're going to change him, and that's our answer now for first base, DH, outfield, whatever it may be. That's bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, good point. Off season wise, it seems like he's played a little bit of lead on the past few years. So, that's a possibility for this coming season. But those roster moves need to be made, basically during that season. So, yeah, I don't know how this is going to go. I guess I'm a little curious just to see how this happens and what they plan on doing here. But yeah, like I am not, my level of intrigue here for Miguel Andujar is not very high.
No. 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, yeah, especially in this rebuild. Why not? Certainly at that point, again, why not? And he was, closer to his rookie of the year. But now being 4 years removed from it, the Pirates need to really start putting on the accelerator. No, I'm good. And honestly, I'm not saying this as an indictment too, but like the Nationals are certainly at that point of their rebuild where it's like they didn't pull him up and bring him in. They passed on him also. And the Nationals could easily use that type of a player at this point. Again, like their closet's bare now. They've traded it. Everyone's gone. The guys upcoming. So even the Nationals said no.
Yeah, and anyway. I don't know if it's still like this, but I don't know if they changed it, but it's I know before when it was a waiver claim, it goes through the whole AL first, and then it goes to the NL. So I don't know if that's still the case.
You know what?
Ethan, I'm sure Ethan knows, but I
think so. And yeah, actually, you make a good point. So everyone in the AL would have said no first.
So, and that means everyone in the AL would have said no.
Yeah.
If that's still the case. I have to look that up, I guess.
Yeah, that's one of those nuances. I'm not sure. But probably so. But anyways. So I don't know. Is that enough about Miguel Andujar? Here's the thing, too. You simply know he's hitting a walk-off in these 8 games. Right?
I don't know. I mean, the dude has done nothing at the major league level the last like, 4
Correct.
years. So
Correct. Which is exactly why he's hitting a walk-off, and then he's going to leave all of us wondering. Not to the degree, but the Yoshi effect last year. He's gonna do something magical in these 8 games, and there's gonna be this whole fashion of Pirates fans like, Andujar, we got him.
I mean,
and we're gonna have a whole offseason to sit on that.
That's a very likely thing that's going to happen. He performs well during these 8 games, and then you get half of Twitter saying that we found our guy. We found that we don't have to go out there and get a first baseman now, or we don't have to get there. We don't have to get a left fielder now because we have Miguel Andujar. And look what he did in these 8 games last season.
Right. They get 5
That would be awful. And that's going to just lead to so many different conversations on Twitter that I don't want to have. I don't want to have those conversations with people who are like saying Miguel Andujar is him, because he hit 3 home runs in an 8-game span in 2022. I don't want to have those conversations.
There's enough discourse. He's going to add to it now. But anyways, are we wrapping up on our Andujar talk?
Yeah, that's 30 minutes of Miguel Andujar talk.
I mean, I think it's warranted. And plus we have the post game, so we've talked about, every other player and how bad the bullpen stinks already. So but yeah, so there's that. So I guess now what do you want to talk about?
I don't know. You're the host.
Oh, come on. I know. I was really just Andujar talk, I figured.
Oh, I don't know. What else happened?
There's 9 games left.
There's 9 games left. I guess what are you I'll be the host here. What, there's 9 games, obviously. We're not really looking for, winning and losing is we're way past that point in the season, right? So like what are some things that you are looking to see over these next 9 games? Like give me your top 3 things.
Okay. I think my number 1 thing, because for the most part, I mean, everyone's had their season. Like if the season ended today, I don't think much is going to change for anybody, right?
Right.
Except for these 2 guys. Luis Ortiz. I didn't get to do, I was on the show yesterday, but it was just like another magical holy hell. Even though it was limited, right? He only had 80 pitches. And I wish he would have went the whole full 5. We talked about Oviedo's start and how that could have been the best Pirate start of the season. And then it was backed up by Ortiz's, which if it would have lasted longer was probably going to be the best start of the Pirate season. Yeah. So very, very intrigued by him. So like, I just want to see as much as I possibly can with him. So let's see his next start. And then Oviedo as well. How's the next one go? It's still a small sample. It's not going to change my mind, but it might make you more comfortable heading into this offseason talking wise, right? Maybe shying away from the he's a reliever thing to more of, maybe the kid can start. So like, what's his next? Probably just 1 more start going to be, maybe 2. How's that going to stack up? Does he go the distance? Strikeouts, the strikes are still up there, right? Walking less people. Like, does he look and fit more of a starter? And then I guess third, I guess the third would be, and I think Ben Charrington answered it. Do you see Endy or anyone? And he said he has no desire to call up anyone from AAA for the rest of the season yesterday on the show. So again, I think he answered it, but we also know that he doesn't truthfully talk. He just talks. So he could still, because I wouldn't be shocked if he said the opposite. Yeah. That we're looking and he doesn't bring up anyone. So I guess my third one is, does anyone else get any type of appearance? Does Endy get his, hey kid, you did a good job, here's your shot? Quinn Priester, whomever. 40 mans are now filled, so that makes it harder. Someone would have to be DFA'd. Not like Greg Allen can't be DFA'd, but someone would have to be DFA'd for that to happen now.
Yeah. I like all those. I think you hit the biggest nail on the head with Ortiz and Oviedo. Oviedo is going to get 2 more starts. At least he should. Ortiz is going to get 1 more start, it seems like. So Yeah, I definitely want to see them just kind of finish strong. Oviedo's 2 starts are both going to come against the Cardinals, by the way. So you got like a double revenge game
I didn't
type
think about
situation.
that. That's
Yeah,
kind of cool.
so that'll be fun. That'll be a nice little storyline there.
Away
Um,
and at home.
yeah,
Nice.
Ortiz again gets a start as well against St. Louis to close out the year, and he's just looked unbelievable in his 3 starts so far. Like just the stuff, the command. The yesterday just it was incredible to just see what he was doing yesterday. Like just putting pitches exactly where he wanted to, making hitters look silly. There was I don't know who the one guy almost there were like 2 guys who almost fell over while they were striking out. Another guy who just was like, "Yep, I struck out. I'm gonna head to the dugout." I looked silly,
Yeah,
and so there were a few people who were like that. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing Ortiz one more time before the end of the year. Oviedo again, it's worth. I'm intrigued there. Um, I'm gonna add one more to this too, and I want to see David Bednar close out strong. Like if we're gonna be using Bednar, I want to be like because right now he's looking a little shaky. He had the IL stint. He's been used a lot this year. Like give me like 3 strong relief appearances to close out the year, so I feel nice and easy, good going into 2023. Like, all
that's
right,
valid.
we at least got Bednar. He's good. He's good to go. So like the last thing I want is Bednar to be blown up this last week and a half, and then you go into next year and you're like, well, do we have literally any relief pitcher that we can count on?
Right.
No. So give me at least one guy that I can be like, okay, we have this guy. Now we just need to find another 8 or 9 people
That's
to
that's
to go with them.
very fair. Yeah, it
So
would be nice to have comfort seeing David Bednar look like David Bednar, even if it is for 1, 2
yeah,
games to go in this offseason. Hey, I mean the velocity was
yeah,
back yesterday, so there's
it
there's
was.
some signs at least for that. So you know what? I would certainly add that to a list too. Um, so good call.
Yeah. Anthony comments, he's looking to see Zach Collins wearing some optimism. I'm not quite sure about the Zach Collins optimism at this point, but hey, we can wish. Looking to see if Bay will start some games in center. And moving Reynolds to left field. I think Bay's starts in center are mostly going to come from either Reynolds off days or Reynolds DH days. I just have a feeling that like they're pretty set on Reynolds being their center fielder. I don't think we see Reynolds move to left really anytime soon. But yeah, I think the intrigue with Bay definitely though is he can play those multiple positions and hopefully he can play them well. Minor league fielding numbers are hard to trust at times because you don't really know how scoring decisions go. The players around you aren't as good, so when the players around you aren't as good, it makes you not look as good. Field conditions aren't like perfect like they are in the major leagues. So, I always kind of look at minor league fielding numbers and I kind of just throw them out the window. They're there, but no, I think that's good. We didn't mention Bay as a guy, but Bay's definitely going to be somebody who's going to be getting a lot of playing time here down the stretch, and he deserves it.
Yep, I'm with you. I mean, I feel like Bay's going to be a a big part of the roster next year, which is good, right? In the sense that it's not these Josh Banners or such. Like it's a person that's going to be part of your future. You want to see, right? Looks pretty productive so far. But like as far as the middle infield goes, you already have Castro, you have Cruz. Outfield looks set-ish. So like I feel like he's going to have to try to get at bats, and like you said, right, he's probably not going to slide Reynolds over, but he'll probably get a lot of at bats in center, in that regard. And was that Collins? Like I just feel, Indy's coming next year. You hope Henry Davis is coming next year. I mean, the catching situation should be by year end filled and completed, right? In that sense. And that's why I feel like right now, like Heineman, Delay, Zach Collins, like the three of them, you're probably looking that you probably want to get some type of veteran. That's why I said like Roberto Perez kind of makes sense. There's conversation that he wants to be back. The Pirates already went out and got him, so I mean, there certainly was already intrigued with him to begin with. And I don't think you're looking for any long-term guy, right? But like a veteran catcher makes a lot of sense, especially because next year you're going to have two young catchers up there. Mm-hmm. So Perez kind of makes sense because you're not going to rely on him to be an everyday guy. He's kind of proven time and time again he's not. And that's why, like, to start off the season, you're probably just having some guy be the backup. And it's probably going to be one of DeLay, Heineman, or Collins. And I guess, like, the one thing about Collins is he I guess, can play first too. So maybe, like, gives him an edge because truly does it matter? If next year started with Collins, DeLay, or Heineman as the backup, do you care?
I guess my one thing with Collins is that, you know, obviously the contact skills are poor, but the power is a tool that he possesses. Way more power than either DeLay or Heineman, right?
Correct.
You know, for his career, 450 plate appearances, he's got, you know, 11 homers. It's not like crazy power, but it's more than those other guys, right? So I guess that would be like my one piece of intrigue of Collins over those other two. But at the same time, you know, we've seen Collins' arm behind the plate, and it seems pretty good. I don't think the rest of his catching is necessarily as good as probably those other guys who are full-time catchers, whereas Collins, you know, is not. Like, Collins is a part-time catcher, basically.
Right. So, and again, I guess what I'm coming from is, like, grand scheme of things, whoever that backup catcher is, they got a clock anyways. Right. I don't really care if like, say, I mean, again, I talk DeLay, right? If DeLay doesn't make it and it's Collins or Heineman, like, I don't care one bit. Whatever. It's a ticking time bomb when that guy's going to be gone anyway. So I don't think it's that big of an issue or situation anyways. But what I will say is, for being a DeLay guy, right, for how good defensively he is, at least he has that tool set, that's not looking too good lately either. You talk about Collins, like, he's made some good defensive plays, especially with the arm. And it's been like the opposite with DeLay anymore. I mean, his throws are just getting more and more wild, and a lot more balls getting past him. Like, that skill set seems to be diminishing. And I'm not saying like that's a permanent thing, but the one thing that, like, his calling card is no longer there either. So now he's just simply a bad player. So again, leading down the path, which bad player that has a backup catcher for next year, I don't really care.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I'm under the thinking that, like, Andy Rodriguez should be this team's starting catcher opening day, but we all know that that's not going to happen.
What you think and what will. Right.
Now, I would love to see them take advantage of this new role in the CBA where, hey, we have a really good prospect who seems to be pretty much ready. Let's put him on the roster and hope he performs, and then we can get rewarded with a draft pick. That would be what I would do. And if he is good, you can sign him to an extension. Like, it's a thing that you can do, right?
So, and if he's not,
then you don't have to. You don't have to worry about it.
You can sit him down and play the service time later.
That's true.
Because he showed you he's not good. Like, it's a win-win. You do what you wanted to do and manipulate and keep him, or you call him up and he's good and you get a draft pick.
Yeah. I mean, it's what the Tigers did with Torkelson, basically. They, you know, had him opening day, gave him 2 months. He wasn't ready. They sent him down, and then they brought him back up later in the year.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And if he's good, he's good. You get rewarded if he's good.
Right.
Plus, if he's good defensively. And he's a catcher, you know, Tyler's saying they just get handed all this war, right? We haven't seen this catcher war get handed to us this season, but, you know, if
certainly not this season,
maybe Endy can get handed all of this war, and then that makes him look good in Rookie of the Year in the Rookie of the Year ballots.
There you go. I like it. Cool. Well, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. So yeah, good stuff. So I guess the Pirates are off Thursday. The only off day in between. So Indy wise, it's interesting that they bumped him to AAA. He's a little more like Castro's or Contreras minor league path than Cruz is. I agree with that. I think there's a chance he makes opening day roster. I mean, there's a chance. They haven't shown me that they're going to do it. They simply haven't.
When was the last top prospect with 0 service time that they put on opening day roster? Really, and I'm not even talking about just Sherrington, like ever.
And you say top, right?
Yeah, top prospect.
Yeah.
I'm like Diego Castillo doesn't count.
Right.
You know?
I mean, that's what I went to. I'm like, well, technically,
like,
but he's not a top
I
prospect.
mean, are we going back to Jose Guillen in 1997? Like that's the name that pops in my head. Like that's the name that pops in my head. I can't specifically remember them doing it for anyone else.
Yeah. It's just not the MO. It's not the small market way. It now can be because of the new rules, and that's why the rules are there. But the Pirates this year more or less showed that we also don't care about that. And like even with this comment, they'll let ND be in the majors until Davis is ready for a call up. Like that could happen and they swap, but if ND's performing, how do you then do that?
No,
if he's out here batting 300, right, with like 8 home runs in June, how do you
he's
say
not going anywhere?
Right? And so that's a problem they've created now. It was easier to do with Roansy because you have a built-in excuse that you got to limit his innings. And I mean, it's not. I mean, it was a valid thing, right? There could have been a different way of doing it, but you don't have an excuse for Eddie Rodriguez. You can't say, well, we have to send him down to work on things.
Right.
So that's what they're going to find out to be their issue. So that's why they simply can't start him on opening day because they have to keep him.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be surprised. I would be very pleasantly surprised, but I would be surprised because again, I can't think of a top prospect they've done that with. That was Jose Guillen was 25 years ago.
Stop. You didn't have to say that, Jim.
But I can't think of another one.
Right. Yeah. And he says Indy might be better in April 23 than any free agent willing to sign with Pittsburgh. I mean, that's true, but it doesn't mean that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as
Indy's the best catcher in the organization right now, and he's not here.
Right. There you go. It's a good point. I mean, they weren't vested into winning, and I don't see them being vested into winning next year either. It could be an improvement, but they're not vested into winning.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's get out of here. It's almost 8:00. We have a post game that we get to do tonight too.
Yeah, good stuff.
So we'll see you in like 4 hours.
Hey, it's Roansy Day today.
It is Roansy Day.
So look forward to that. It's Monday after your weekend. You've got Roansy to look forward to tonight
against a team that you've already swept. So maybe some good things are happening.
Yep.
At least for this few games. So
yeah.
All right. We're done. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back. Bye-bye.
See you guys.